The Mechanism, a stage play in 5 acts, for 2 voices. Orin, a clockmaker, mid-40s, restless hands, hasn't slept. Sable, a visiting colleague, ageless, calm as a pendulum. Setting, a cluttered workshop, 1 window, a single overhead lamp. The workbench is covered in disassembled clock parts. Center stage, an unusual clock, its face removed, innards exposed. Act 1 BC. Before dawn, Orin sits at his bench, an open parcel beside him. He holds a jeweller's loop to his eye and peers into the clock's exposed movement. A mug of tea has gone cold. Sable enters through a side door, coat still on, stamping cold from her boots.
You called me at 4 in the morning.
I know. I know what time it is. That's the whole problem, actually. Sit down.
You sound like you've been awake for days.
Since yesterday morning. 5:50 to be precise. 57 seconds past.
He gestures at the parcel wrapping on the floor.
Someone sent your clock.
Not someone. Her. The one I've been corresponding with. The one whose work I showed you last autumn.
The anonymous builder. The one who signs everything with just the spiral.
She included a note. Brief. Said she wanted my interpretation. My take on the mechanism. She warned me it was dense. Said people who stare at mechanisms like this for too long tend to isolate themselves. Even from the room they're sitting in.
And you've been staring since yesterday.
I read the note, acknowledged receipt, thanked her for the gift. Went to work. Couldn't think about anything else. The whole morning shift, every time I picked up a tool I was thinking about this thing sitting here waiting for me.
He pulls the lamp lower.
So walk me through it. What are we looking at?
At first I was examining everything. The case, the face, the hands, the gears. All of it together. But by lunchtime I started skipping the case entirely. The decorative parts. The housing. I kept going back to just the raw movement. The gears themselves. Just her choices. Her hand.
You're ignoring the enclosure.
The enclosure is manufactured. Standard brass. Off the shelf. What she built is inside. The case is just the vessel it arrives in. The real signature is in the teeth of the gears. The spacing. The tension on the mainspring. That's where you find the maker.
Sable removes her coat, hangs it on a hook, approaches the bench.
So you're reading the mechanism the way you'd read a letter.
Exactly. Like separating paint from canvas. The flavour of the case is one thing. The flavour of the movement is another. Together you get a picture, sure. But right now I'm just trying to understand who she is when she's cutting gears in the dark.
You said you went to work. Then what?
Got through the day. Barely. Had a long conversation with Harlan afterward about his apprenticeship. Lasted 2 hours. Half about business, half about life. I've been ending up in that role more and more. The advisor. The steady hand. I don't like it. Don't like being the one who's supposed to know things.
You do know things.
Knowing things and being positioned as someone who knows things are different occupations entirely.
He picks up a gear with tweezers, holds it to the light.
After Harlan I drove to get supplies. Took a longer route than expected because the plaza was a mess. Came home. Turned on a quiz program. Opened a beer. Got 4 answers right out of 61.
You're telling me about your evening television habits because
the whole time, this clock was sitting here. On my bench. In the dark. While I was watching television and eating a frozen dinner out of a plastic tray. And I could feel it. Waiting.
Act 2, Disassembly. Later. More pots are laid out on the bench now, organized in rows. Orin has a notebook open beside him. Sable sits across from him with her own loop.
All right. I've been looking. Tell me what you found so far.
The opening sequence of the gear train. First 3 wheels. She's built in a wobble. Intentional. The teeth don't quite mesh perfectly, and at first I thought it was a flaw, but it's too consistent to be accidental. She's introducing doubt into the mechanism.
Doubt.
The clock asks itself whether it's keeping accurate time. Right there, in the first interaction between the escapement and the train. There's a question built into it. Am I precise? Am I reliable? She's encoded self-inquiry into the tolerances.
That's one interpretation.
Then she pivots. After the initial wobble, there's a secondary gear completely unnecessary for timekeeping that feeds back into the mainspring housing. Decorative from the outside. But inside, what it's actually doing is reflecting the mainspring stock back at itself. It's a mirror.
A mirror inside a clock.
She's built a mechanism that watches itself. And then she's attached a label to the mirror gear that says the clock was built by someone else.
I don't follow.
The engraving on that gear says designed by Laurent. But the cutting style is identical to the rest. Same hand. Same workshop marks. She's pretending to ask questions about someone else's work while interrogating her own. Not uncommon, actually. I've done it myself. You build something, then you examine it as though a stranger made it so you can be honest about what you see.
Orin flips several pages in his notebook.
After the mirror gear, she gets into the striking train. This is where it gets interesting. She's selected specific comments scratched right into the plates from people who've seen her previous work. Extraordinary precision, on the verge of something important. But also, beautiful but confusing, the hard to let go of.
She engraved reviews into her own mechanism.
Cherry-picked. The ones that say she's brilliant and the ones that say she's sticky. Her word. Sticky.
Sable sits down her loop.
On. Commentary.
Go ahead.
A persistent inquiry into one's own precision level is not inherently wrong, but it does raise questions about self-indulgence, particularly when paired with the opening wobble, the dot which she introduced alongside a story engraved on the base plate about a great-aunt whose clock slow ran backward and who was eventually institutionalized for it. The comparison between the two things suggests someone was told very young that this kind of work leads to madness.
I noticed that too.
Did you also notice that the base plate story is positioned directly beneath the mainspring? So every time the spring wins, a story gets pressed. Over and over.
Long pause.
I need to take a break. What time is it?
6:51.
In the morning.
Sun's been up for 10 minutes.
Orin stands, stretches, walks to the window, returns.
She then introduces an idea. Midway through the striking train. That maybe the original clockmaker, the one she pretends isn't her, is not a real person at all. Maybe it's a machine that built the clock. An automated delay following a program.
She's questioning whether the maker is human.
And she uses the testimony of observers as evidence. People who've seen the work and said the hand movements are too perfect. The cut's too clean. She points to the mirror gear and says, look at the reflections. If a machine made this, where are the toe marks a machine would leave? Where are the towels?
But she built it. She knows.
That's the game. She's interrogating her own humanity through her proxy. And then this is the pot that kept me up. She asks whether it matters. Whether a clock made by a machine is less true than one made by hand. Whether the time it keeps is different.
Act 3, Interference. Afternoon. The workshop is messer. Fast food wrappers on a side table. Orin has a recording device set up next to his notebook. He's speaking into it while examining gears. Sable sits in a chair nearby, reading.
The recorder should be capturing this. Let me test. Yes, good. The little light is on. So what I'm doing now is narrating as I go because I want a record of my thought process in real time for when I come back to write the proper response.
A loud click. The recorder stops.
What happened? Did it know? No. The recorder just stopped.
You bumped the switch with your elbow.
This is what I'm talking about. Every time. Every single time I try to document something, the tools revolt.
Your elbow revolted. The tools are fine.
I'm going to restart it. There. Recording. Third. Perfect. Let's see if it decides to cooperate.
He bends back over the mechanism.
So she's built a section here, page 34 of my notes, where she questions whether the framing of the whole clock is intentional. What are the wobble, the mirror gear, the engraved reviews whether every single element was designed not just to function but to create a specific experience in whoever disassembles it.
A clock that performs for its repairer.
She suggests that the ideal audience for a clock like this is small. A handful of people who understand gear trains well enough to see the layers. And those people become gatekeepers. They protect the mystery of the mechanism from casual observers. Not because she asks them to, but because understanding creates loyalty.
That's not clockmaking. That's cult architecture.
I know. And I flagged it. In my notes, I wrote, the psychological risks of this kind of project are real. With a sufficiently intelligent audience, this approach is defensible. With anyone else, you're building followers, not colleagues. She's asking people to police her reputation on her behalf so she doesn't have to.
Does she acknowledge that?
Later. Much later. She admits she wrestled with whether it was manipulative, which is healthy, actually. I can't critique that too hard. It's honest introspection, but the admission comes after 30 pages of building the architecture she's questioning.
The recorder clicks off again.
Oh, come.
Your elbow.
It was not my elbow. Something is the switch is fine. Fine. I'll hold it. I'll hold the recorder in my hand like a civilized person.
He picks up the recorder, holds it like a microphone, speaks directly into it.
She reveals, eventually, that she is the clockmaker. That she is the Laurent. That the mirror gear, the engraved reviews, the whole pretense of studying someone else's work was all autobiography. And then she shows the piece that makes it matter.
Which piece?
The chime. At the heart of the striking train there's a chime mechanism. And when it sounds, the vibrations travel backward through the gear train, through the mirror gear, back to the mainspring. The clock rings and then listens to its own ringing. She engraved beside it, in very small letters, that's the transmission. That's why it's sticky. That's why you can't tell if you're hearing the clock or hearing yourself hearing the clock, because the whole point is to activate the listener.
Silence.
She built an instrument that turns the repairer into a component.
Yes.
Act 4 Oscillation. Late evening. The lamp flickers once. Orin has a beat in one hand and the recorder in the other. His notebook is full. Sable has pulled her chair closer to the bench. The clock parts are spread across the entire surface now, organized into 3 distinct groupings.
She sorts everything into 3 systems. She calls them the spring, the train, and the dial. What drives? What translates? What displays? And then she adds a 4th, the observer. The person holding the clock. She says the mechanism is incomplete without the hand that winds it.
That's not radical. Every clockmaker knows a clock without a user is sculpture.
But she takes it further. She says the 3 systems need to synchronize. And when they do, the observer doesn't climb up to understanding their eyes. Like a standing wave. She says she doesn't lift the observer to the mechanism. She recruits the observer to build a bridge in a place she can't access, inside the observer's own hand. And then she tells them, look, you're already holding the bridge.
He takes a drink, sets down the beer.
And then I'm reading this, Sable, and I find myself thinking, well, she's describing what happened to me. I received this clock. I disassembled it. I organized the parts into my own system. And somewhere in that process I stopped examining her mechanism and started examining my own reaction to her mechanism. She built a clock that turns you into a clockmaker. That's the trick.
Or the gift.
Or the danger.
He stands, walks to the window, speaks to the glass.
But here's where I disagree with her. She claims credit for this. She says she's the one who brought the observers to this state, recruited them, tuned them, but I don't think that's entirely accurate. People who elect to take apart a clock are already curious. They've already volunteered for the work. She provided a catalyst, not a cause.
You're defending your own agency.
I'm defending everyone's agency. If the universe sends a signal, it doesn't send it once. It sends it through multiple people, multiple vectors, multiple moments. No single intersection is more important than another. They're all relevant. Every crossing is the one that matters.
He turns from the window.
Right now, in this moment, I'm experiencing one of those crossings. I can feel it, not just intellectually. In the air, in the lamp, in the beer that was brewed a year ago from hops that grew 3 years before that. All of it arrived here, at this bench, tonight to produce this moment. This recording, this conversation with you. This is the mechanism working. Not hers. Not mine. The mechanism.
On.
I know how it sounds.
It sounds like a man who has been awake for 40 hours staring into a clock.
It sounds like truth.
Those aren't mutually exclusive.
She picks up a gear, the mirror gear, holds it between them.
You said she built a mirror into the mechanism. Something that reflects the mainspring's torque back at itself. What if you're doing the same thing right now? Reflecting her work back through your own mainspring and calling the resonance the universe.
Maybe that's exactly what's happening. And maybe the resonance is real regardless of its origin.
Then what's the difference between insight and echo?
Long pause.
When it reaches someone who wasn't in the room.
Act 5 Escapement. Near midnight. Most of the clock parts have been reassembled. Not into the original configuration, into something new. Our notebook is closed. The recorder is still running. Sable stands at the door with her coat.
She writes about time. Near the end. About at the moment you hear a clock chime, the chime is already in the past. The sound had to travel from the bell to your ear, then from your ear to your brain, then from one part of your brain to the part that understands. By the time you think I heard that, the hearing is history.
Every clockmaker knows this. It's the fundamental problem.
But she says it's not a problem. She says it's the feature. The delay between the strike and the understanding is where we live. That tiny gap is consciousness. And the clock's job isn't to eliminate the gap. It's to make you aware that the gap exists.
He looks down at what he's assembled. It isn't a clock anymore. It's something else. Something that uses her gears in his frame.
She says you can become aware of the gap, but you can't close it. You can't grab the present moment. It's always arriving and it's always gone. The now is now, but that now is already not now. Like driving a mile and watching the odometer tick. You arrive. You've driven a mile. Congratulations. You may now exit the vehicle and order your sandwich.
She said that. About the sandwich?
No, that was me. She wrote something more elegant. But the principle is the same. We are always in transit, never at the destination. And that's not failure. That's the design.
Sable buttons her coat.
So what will you tell her?
I don't know yet. Tomorrow, with fresh eyes, I'll probably watch my recording back and cringe at half of what I said.
Only half?
I've earned my eccentricities. One day I'll tell you about all of them, but not tonight.
He looks at the reassembled thing on his bench.
I will say this. She asked me to look at her clock and tell her what I see. But what I see is that she built a mechanism designed to make the person examining it build their own clock in response. And I have, without even meaning to. I've taken her gears and put them in my frame, and now there's a new thing on this bench that neither of us made alone.
And what time does it keep?
Orin looks at the wall clock, then at his bench, then at Sable.
Now, it keeps now. It always keeps now.
Sable opens the door. Cold air enters. The lamp flickers.
Good night, Orin.
The current time is February 14th, 2026. 23 hours, 50 minutes and 30 seconds. I'm signing off.
He reaches for the recorder, pauses, looks directly up past the fourth wall.
Wherever you are, whatever time it is for you, this is where I was.
He clicks the recorder off. The lamp holds steady, then dims, blackout. And